coming tonight. I know it's a weeknight, and we really appreciate everybody being here. We really wanted to take the opportunity to get some people in the room and have a chance to ask some questions to the man of the hour. So again, thank you all. It really means a lot. I know it's difficult right now with a lot of the news coming out and just things are depressing. So it really shows a lot that you guys care and you care enough to be here on a weeknight, as does Steve. So our main mission right now is to make sure we re-elect Steve Englebright to the county legislature. So before we begin, I just want to call up a couple people who are on our campaign staff. We have a couple different announcements and things that we just want to update you on. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Will Laffey, who is going to be our field organizer starting next week. So everybody say hello to Will. Woo!
What's up, Will?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Will. I went to Stony Brook both for my undergrad and graduate, and yeah, in the next couple of weeks I will be, starting as the field organizer, and we will be starting our outreach over in the Setauket office. And yeah, I'm excited to to get started and to have the interns with us.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Will. Thank you. All right, Holly, if you wanted to come up and just say a few words about our internship program. So as you guys can see, some of our interns and campaign staff have been walking around the room. So Holly just wants to say a few words and give you guys some updates.
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Holly. I've met a lot of you and talked on the phone with a lot of you. Thank you so much for coming. I just want to say a few words about this campaign and our internship program. So first of all, everyone who's an intern, can you raise your hand? Yes, we have a wonderful intern staff all around.
And we even have some people on Zoom.
Yes, we have one of our interns
on Zoom. Raising their hand on Zoom.
All the way from New Jersey. Which, just shows the commitment. I just want to thank all of them. These are all very hardworking students who have put a lot of time and effort into this campaign. And I also just wanted to say this was, one of the first campaigns where I've had a major role, and it really means a lot to me, especially because a lot's at stake this election. And I just want to make sure that everyone leaves this event really understanding that, it's important to talk to your neighbors, your friends, and your families about it, because there's only 18 legislators in the Suffolk County Legislature, and there's only 2 counties, so really every single seat makes a huge difference in the quality of life that we're all going to experience moving forward. So just wanted to really hammer that down and make sure everyone left here feeling like they're asking the right questions, they're getting the right answers. And yeah, if you have any questions at any point or any ideas that you would like to maybe execute for volunteering, you want to host a house party or something, that would be super fun, so please reach out to us. Thank you guys.
Hi, I'm Lucas. I am the incoming field director, if I may. Okay. And so I also am a fellow Seawolf, and I promised myself if I ever worked in a campaign again that I would have to believe in the candidate that I'm working for, and I believe in Steve. Not only because of how much he's changed our communities for the better, but because he's a good man, simply. Anyway, but we have a guided nature walk fundraiser, I have to mention this. And it's a small dollar fundraiser where Steve is going to be leading along the trail at Frank Melville Park, and he knows a lot about history. If you know him, you know that. And also, it's another chance to get closer with him. And so that is on Saturday at 2 p.m. Frank Melville Park, of course. And also, just to talk about this race, we are being out fundraised by a Republican opponent. Usual, they've got money, we've got people. So that's why things like these small dollar fundraisers really make the difference. And I think that, we're not just like supporting Steve, but we're supporting in defending the Democratic minority at our county, just like Holly said. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. So once again, thank you to all of the interns, the staff, everybody who attended tonight. We really do appreciate all of the effort. And just in an effort to keep things moving, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Legislator Englebright. I figure he will tell everybody a little bit about himself, and then we'll open it up in a little bit to some questions and answers. You don't need that?
I hope I don't need that. How are y'all?
Good.
Can you hear me back there?
Yes.
And we
Good.
have some people on Zoom here.
Well, hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm the 3D version of the image that you saw in those brochures on the way in. This is the life-size version. So thank you all for being here. You know, we live in a tumultuous time, and all politics ultimately is local politics. So these local seats really matter. And for that reason, and for the possibility that I might be able to continue to make a positive difference, I have decided to run again. And I'm still on top of the turf. I'm not under it. I count that as a good day. And I count that as an opportunity to make a positive difference. And in order to do that, I need the help of people who are just like you. When you get home, look in the mirror and you'll see what I'm talking about. Because the grassroots really ultimately is what a democracy is all about. What that translates into at the local level is the work of town and village, and in my case, county government. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a geologist by training. I've been involved with museum work since I was 14 years old. I was a junior curator volunteer at the Brooklyn Children's Museum. When I was in the late part of my high school career, I did volunteer work. I had the privilege of working under the world famous paleontologist George Gaylord Simpson, vertebrate paleontology section of the American Museum of Natural History. So I was all geared up to go to college and be a geologist, but my mother dropped me on my head when I was a child. And somehow I veered from the path of pure academics, and I was always interested in the activities and issues of government. So eventually I could not resist. I was well into my career as an academic. I was the curator of geology at SUNY at Stony Brook, and a professor of history, Hugh Cleland, who was a professor of labor history, picked me out and said, "Steve, I want you to consider running." So I ran, and I won. There was a landslide at 325 votes. I had to defeat a sitting incumbent, three-term incumbent. But along the way, I met a lot of wonderful people. I knocked on a lot of doors, wore out several pairs of shoes, and took what my father had taught me about going door to door. He had set me up when I was a kid to go door to door to sell earrings and wallets. So it wasn't a big change. I'm selling myself, going door to door. So I served in the county legislature on my first tour of duty for 9.5 years, through 5 elections. Then I ran for the New York State Assembly, a seat that had been held by a guy named Robert Gaffney. Bob Gaffney had just won at that point the election to become the county executive. So the 4th Assembly District had a vacancy, and I thought it was a good time to take some of the things I'd been working on at the county level to the state level. And I stayed in the state for a little while, 32 years. And have some fond memories of all those experiences that took place, and did some important work. I took some of my museum background and utilized that when I had the chance to chair the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, which oversees, that committee oversees the New York State Council on the Arts, including the Museum Aid Program. And I also was the chair of government operations for about 5 years. I was there for a while, so I actually chaired about 4 committees. Toward the end of my time, I was for 5 years the chair of the Environmental Conservation Committee. Had a chance to sponsor the Green Amendment, for example, the constitutional amendment that guarantees the right to clean air and water for every citizen of the state. I was the prime sponsor of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the CLCPA, which is still the strongest climate theme legislation in the land, and many other such initiatives, 2 constitutional amendments. I also was a sponsor of the Environmental Bond Act that passed about 3 years ago now, and was the original prime sponsor of the Clean Water referendum for Suffolk County, which brings me back to the county. I used to send money from Albany to the county, something that Rebecca Cassay does now, and I'm on I have the privilege of sitting on the commission that was set up to oversee the distribution of the funds, because that Clean Water referendum was passed overwhelmingly by the voters of the county. And 1/8 of a penny of the county sales tax is now dedicated to clean water. And so I feel very connected to all of those things that I've just told you about. The thread of experiences is an interweave that causes me to want to do more. And as I mentioned briefly a moment ago, I'm not dead yet, so I want to do more. And with your help, I think I can get some good stuff done. I'm working on a few things now. I'm hoping, for example, that, by the way, when I was in the county legislature the first time, I helped advance the notion that we should preserve the Pine Barrens and use the tool of county parkland as the mechanism to do that. We now have the 2nd largest county park system in the nation.
Well,
And the majority of those acres, 63,000 acre park system, the majority of them anchor the most important ecosystems of our county, including the Pine Barrens, which is a natural watershed. So again, I feel quite connected to these things, but I see a lot of things that still need to be done. The county museum, which was the first county park, it's called the Suffolk County Vanderbilt Museum, should not be isolated from the rest of the park system. In my opinion, there is a need for curatorial connections between the things that make up the substance of the park system, the unique natural areas, for example, the biology of our shore areas as well as our terrestrial ecosystems, are the types of things that you need to educate the public about in order to feel connected through the generations going forward. If we do not, I feel, help translate understanding of the responsibility of stewardship to the next generation, then we're not really protecting what we've spent certainly the last 4 decades putting together. This great park system. By the way, the only other system larger than ours is Los Angeles County, and that's not fair because they're also a city, a giant city, and they only have 2,000 acres more, and we're going to catch up.
We're hot on the trail.
We're hot on the trail. But I really think that parks help define a sense of place, and one of the most important things that we can do is pass to the next generation an understanding of their natural history as well as their built heritage, their historic heritage. There are over 200 built structures in the county park system. Many are on the National Register of Historic Places, and they help tell the story of us. So I think we need that museum to have its mission expanded. It's the beginning of the park system. When Willie K. Vanderbilt died in 1946, he left that treasure to the county, and it became our first county park. Somehow along the way, it just became a parochial site and is somewhat disconnected from the rest of the park system, even though if you go there, there's the Hall of Fishes. You know, we're an island surrounded by fishes. So I think there are some connections that can be made, and even inside of the county, one of the things that I aspire to do is to connect the academic, I'm still an academic, connect the academic work of the School of Oceanographic and Atmospheric Sciences at SUNY at Stony Brook, one of the great schools of marine sciences in the world. And just around the corner is the Hall of Fishes. You think maybe they talk to each other? I told you before that I did some volunteer work for a couple of years at the American Museum of Natural History. I had a chance to realize that some of these great curators, authors of books, movies, you all remember some of them from television, that they also have an academic connection. Many of them have a dual appointment in the Department of, name it, entomology or ichthyology, whatever, within the museum. And then at Columbia University, they're also teaching there. Hey, we got a community college in this county. And we've got the largest of the SUNY campuses at Stony Brook. Maybe we should be talking to one another. Maybe we should be doing some cross-connection between these institutions in the way that the American Museum of Natural History has cross-connections with Columbia and Lamont Doherty. So these are some of the things that caused me to say I want to see if I can continue to make a positive difference. I think the pieces are there. They just need to be maybe assembled a little better within the county. Speaking of things that are in pieces and need a little assembly, next week is going to be the 18th of August and the 19th of August. Last year, in the overnight between the 18th and 19th of August, something came apart, and it was the mill pond in Old Stony Brook. My friend and colleague Jonathan Kornreich is here. We still have some hair left, but we've practiced pulling it out over this last year. There's some problem solving that still needs to be done. Part of the problem is that the creek was the boundary between several jurisdictions, and between Smithtown and Brookhaven and the village, incorporated village of Head of the Harbor, and the hamlet of Old Stony Brook, which is managed by a private not-for-profit corporation called the Stony Brook Community Fund, now renamed the Ward Melville Heritage Organization. Oh yeah, and the stream empties into state waters in the harbor. Oh yeah, and there's the county. Oh, I'm a county guy, that's right. So maybe there's a role for the county to play, and I've been working on that. And I really believe that, and I know Jonathan does also, that it would be really good if all the protagonists from all of these different entities could work together a little bit and figure out who owns who owns the dam, or what's left of it, and what's the best way to put it back together, because that mill that the dam was built in 1751 is a part of our national heritage and a major tourist attraction for the region. Oh yeah, that's right. Tourism is our #1 industry. Maybe there's a connection here. So I just thought I'd mention that because it's coming up next week, and the first year anniversary in this case is not a happy one. We have some work to do. And I think I can collaborate certainly with my colleague from the town board, with my colleague, and of course Ian Murphy is Chief of Staff to Rebecca Cassate. There's a chance that we might be able to continue to make a difference in this policy area as well, and I think it's an important one to focus on. Speaking of history things, as I was leaving the assembly, I was able to provide a grant to the town of Brookhaven to purchase the site, the building, where arguably the most important event in Long Island's history took place, the Road Tavern, where President George Washington, in the first year of his second term, took the time to travel to Setauket, his destination. He traveled out the South Shore, came north through Coram, in part, I think, because he wanted to thank the patriots who put their lives on the line for basically destroying the fuel that kept the British cavalry going. The fuel in those days wasn't jet fuel, it was hay. They burned the hay in Coram. George Washington came north through Coram where the hay had been burned. They froze the British cavalry in place. It enabled the ultimate victory that created our nation. And then he went to Setauket and he met with his spies and he stayed overnight. It was his turnaround point of his 2-week journey to Long Island. And he met with the spies in Setauket who had basically saved his life, exposed Benedict Arnold, saved the French fleet, and many other things. And that house had been moved in about 1936. The town turned the road that it fronted. The inn, by the way, is from 1703. The Road Tavern is an inn. Turned it over to the state. Somebody in the state highway department must have said, I think we'll widen the road and that house is in the way. And the owner of the house patriot to the core, said, "Oh my God!" And he lifted the house up, put it on wheels, cut a swath through the forest, and carried it about a half a mile away and put it on a new foundation, which is not in the context of the event that I spoke of. So it's been a long-term quest, and this is one of the other things that Jonathan and I are working on. And I'm thinking that there may be a connection to those 200 buildings that are in the county park system as well. Those are part of a collection, really, a museum quality collection that defines who we are and how we came to be as a community, as a county, as a town, and as a nation. And so that gives you some insight into some of the things that I'm hoping to have a chance to continue to work on. And I'm so thrilled to see you all here. Thank you for taking the time to come this evening. And I talk too much sometimes, but I wanted to give you a chance to understand why a guy who no longer wears bell bottoms and no longer has sideburns or even brown hair is up in front of the lectern. And so thank you for being here. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Anybody, any questions? Paula?
We were kayaking on the Nissequock last week, and the beginning of the ride, of the trip, was really dirty. It was, well, it was different than last year. Did that happen from the flood? Did it reach out to the
Where did you start from? Were you going upstream?
The bowl.
You started at the bowl.
Yeah.
And the water was dirty?
Yeah.
Rust colored? Because I read something on Facebook about that there was a naturally occurring, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh.
It looks like rust.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's.
I don't know if that-
I'm not sure that's dirty so much as just a consequence of what's in the soils.
Okay.
The Nissequock is pretty good shape.
Oh, yeah.
It's the second longest river on Long Island. It's the largest river in terms of discharge. Its geological history is mysterious because there are very few boulders along the Nissequock Valley. We have glacial boulders, the glacial erratics as they're called, left and right, east and west of the valley, but you go into the valley itself, you won't see any boulders as you canoe down the river. Why? And I don't really have a good answer for that. I do know that there's a connection to that river of what I mentioned before, the events of last August 18th and 19th. There were two historic mills who lost their dams that night, and the other one was on the Nissequock in the county park called the Blydenburg Park. And the Blydenburg Dam was also breached. Interestingly, and I think importantly, the rain event, you got me going on this, so let me. The rain event itself really started in Connecticut. It killed 3 people in Connecticut that night. Drowned 1 man in his car. The same almost 11 inches of rain that the north central part of the North Shore from Rocky Point to Huntington encountered that night was a storm like none that we had seen in more than 100 years. As I said, it devastated parts of Connecticut, blew out bridges and culverts and killed several people, and then slammed into the North Shore. Took out 2 mill dams that date to the 18th century. what's notable is that it did not take out the mill in Setauket, on the Setauket mill ponds. And so I just want to mention why. And the answer is tied into what really happened that night. It wasn't that the water was so much by volume that it pushed the dam and cracked the dam open or something. No, that's not what happened. The mass of these earthen dams was enough mass to hold the volume of water easily had the dams been higher, and the mass and width of the base of the earthen dams, it's just made of loose soil and sand, but they're heavy. It could have easily resisted the volume of the water. It wasn't water pressure then that caused the ruptures. And the lesson for that is over in, to be seen really, over in the Frank Melville Park in Setauket, the dam that didn't break. So what really happened? What really happened is that this was an erosion event, not a water pressure event. The water came into the basins of the Blydenburg Park and the Stony Brook Mill Pond so rapidly that the basins filled, and at the lowest elevation, the Mill Road in between Stony Brook and head of the harbor is slightly inclined, and the water went over the lowest part and overtopped the dam. And then it fell as a waterfall for 16 feet. Now, you've all been to the shore, and you've had little 4-foot waves break on you, and then as they swash out, you look down and you're standing in sand up to your ankles. How did that happen? And the way that happens is that loose particles that are not actually bound together by cement in sediment, loose sediment, if you will, if you drop heavy water on it, even a little wave, it jostles those particles, they go into suspension, and you fall down. If you're standing there and the wave is breaking, you fall down 3 or 4 inches because the particles have been elevated and are now liquid with the water. It's called quicksand. And you do that on an earthen dam for 2 or 3 hours. And what happens is that the water falling 16 feet, the plunge pool at the base of the waterfall places the earth and sand into suspension. As new water pours down, as long as the overtopping event is going on, it washes away the sand. And guess what? A dam that isn't there anymore is not going to hold water. If you wash away the dam because of the overtopping, if you erode it away, then it will have a catastrophic next chapter. And the next chapter was the breach. So we've spent about a year now. Next week will be a year. And I'm not sure how many of the so-called experts that have been called in have been able to really figure out what really happened there, but I happen to be a sedimentologist, so I'm telling you what happened. And back to the Frank Melville Park, the reason it didn't breach was because it has a solid rock surface. It had a spillway that overflowed, and the water plunged, but it hit something that didn't jostle, it didn't liquefy, and didn't wash away. It was immune. It was the equivalent of having your shower hit the shower curtain in your tub. It just bounces off. But if you don't have on the seaward side of a dam that is overtopped, if you don't have a solid surface for the water to fall against, and all you have is unconsolidated sediment, that sediment will be mobilized and washed away. And you won't have a dam. And it won't matter how massive it was, not when you wash it away. So maybe after a year, we'll finally have a chance to resolve this, but it is preoccupying, and I anticipate that it's ever more important now that we're reaching sort of a crescendo of a community angst over this, to understand how to fix. But the first thing, before you fix it, you have to understand what happened. And I think we can, between the 3 Democratic local offices, I think we can perhaps get the attention of some of the other players. Question, Marshall?
Yeah, that really goes right to my question, which is, it seems very endemic of problems we often face on Long Island, where we have 13 towns with 2 cities, an Indian reservation, 97 villages, and at least 100 hamlets. All these overlapping jurisdictions. How does one get things done on a regular basis with all that?
Just stay at it, basically. It's still all about people. And it's very important to keep communication lines open. And for those circumstances where as you enter a building and you hear the doors slamming ahead of you as you walk down the hall, don't lose your cool. You just gotta stay patient and realize that the people behind those doors, in some cases, are just afraid. And that's a human response. And just be patient. Eventually, if you get a chance, you'll have an opportunity to get a word in edgewise, and if you've done your homework, your time will be well served to help communicate, which is the first thing you need to do to problem solve. So,
Thank you.
just, realize that you're dealing with people who have feelings and emotions just like you do. Empathy really is an important part of our business if you're going to be effective. Yes, ma'am.
I have to stand up because my voice is not loud. But anyway, just an extension of what he said. First of all, in terms of communication, and I was just putting a few notes down. I don't want to ask a question. I just want to make a statement, because, okay, how do you keep a straight face when you hear those who outnumber you at the table take the credit for all that you have done and are doing? That's number one. Number two, the current proposal regarding term limits, I know that's going to be a biggie, and I think that probably we have to think in terms of messaging for that. And thirdly, in terms of the infrastructure, maybe if communication were permissible, if we had folks at the table, better numbers, you can talk about climate change and the eroding infrastructure. All of it's intertwined together. And so that's just my statement. I hope I'm not a troublemaker.
I hope you are.
You are a troublemaker, but it's all good trouble, and it's wonderful. Thank you for the questions. Let me start with the first question. If you're at a table and somebody takes credit for something, say thank you.
That's about it.
As long as it gets done.
Absolutely.
The object of this exercise is not personal gratification. The object of public service is to get things done for the people who sent you.
Can I just say something to that?
Yeah.
The only problem that I see with that is they keep saying thank you to all you've done, and the voters look around and think we're doing nothing. So I
That
don't
is,
like, I
that
don't
is a,
like that.
that is a problem, which is why events like this one and the knocking on doors and the parts of education of our public that you're all really a part of. If you are campaign workers, you're really educators. You're informing people about how to make their families safer, their communities healthier, how to be more efficient in terms of the use of public dollars, which we extract from people all too often and too much. So yeah, it's ultimately it keeps coming back to communication and
Well,
education.
thank you for the young legs that you have. You're gonna take them around and talk.
Well, they have metal in them. Are you talking about my legs? Or you're talking about these legs? Oh yeah. They're awesome. They're awesome. Much appreciated.
Many legs make light work.
Let me answer the other. Let me answer the other. Yeah, I'm magnetic now. I used to want to have a magnetic personality, but somehow it's in my knees. Your second question.
Messaging about the proposal to
Oh,
extend the
yeah.
term. You know, if we had all of us, I'd love it, but I'm not so sure.
The
If we don't
term,
have all
the
of
term
us.
limits issue, you know, I don't think that it makes sense for us to change the length of service. I've always run for offices that are 2 years, and the public, I believe, should keep us all on a short leash. And a 2-year long leash is just fine. But when you have a resolution that comes before you that says, for all practical purposes, it's not worded this way, but essentially it says, do you want to let the people vote, or are you going to deny the people the right to vote? Even if you don't like the idea of what they're going to be voting on, you probably would be well advised to not vote against a possible referendum on the matter. So you have seen a whole bunch of Democrats voting with Republicans on placing this on the ballot. It doesn't mean that those Democrats are going to campaign for the alteration of the term limit or the lengthening of a term.
Thank you, that's the answer I needed.
So yeah, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know, that's the kind of vote that is. What was your third question? You had
I'm
a.
too old, I forgot it.
Um,
Let me see. No, keeping a straight face, I think I said, let me see. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I'm done.
We're good?
Yes.
Thank you for your question. Got any questions? Question?
I love that your campaign is in a large part based around nature. We're a scout family, so we've always been in nature. I wish everyone was, but not everybody is. So trying to get people to love nature that don't. You know, when I'm on my mom's group on Facebook, and people say like, oh, what can I do with my kids today? The answer of go to a park is about 4th or 5th. It comes after the mall. It comes after places I can spend money. And you know, it's like, oh, here's these free parks and they're beautiful. But then people want to spend money because there's more structure to it, it's more accessibility. I think one of the reasons people were so upset about the washing out of the bridge is that Avalon is a very accessible park. There are things for kids to do there. There are shops nearby. What are some ways that we can, you know, the next generation only wants to save something that they interact with. And if they're not on a school field trip, or if their parents aren't like out of money, I don't know how many people are going to park as a default. How do we start to build that by either making them more accessible / entertaining, or kind of have reasons for people to make a park kind of more of a first choice and get them to love it. So that way when we say, hey, let's save our parks, it has a little more meaning to it.
Thank you for the question. That's a great question. You know, I've spent a lot of time, 40 years in government now, working with parks right in the center of my field of vision, because they're really extraordinarily important, you know, from any facet that you look at them. What's missing, I'll talk about our county parks. Well, I'll talk a little bit about state parks also. The two largest park systems on Long Island are the Suffolk County Park System and the New York State Park System. They don't talk to each other hardly at all, which is unfortunate. But I think those parks and the unique resources that are within those parks that help define our culture, our sense of place, our history, need to be talked about. We don't have at present any, not even one naturalist in the county of Suffolk park system. Not one? No, not one. I mentioned we have 200 buildings, many of them nationally significant buildings. We have one person, he's 70 years old and getting ready to retire. He's very capable. Richard Martin is his name. But he's a singularity.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I'm founded the Long Island Conservancy. We're all about habitat restoration and especially planting native in your yards, so that people need to first encounter nature where they are, and then they can take that to the parks. But we have to overcome our plant blindness first. And kids playing in the yards, that's how I grew up, in the dirt, in the mud. So start them at home, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Oh, my house, we're all about the nature.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I think some others, you know, we have a local library, we're Middle Country Library, and they have a nature explorium in the back. And that, we could spend the whole day there with the kids. There's digging in the mulch and all the plants and sensory gardens and things like that. So yeah, you get a little taste of it. But you know, for someone to go to Avalon versus like Cathedral Pines. Cathedral Pines is like a lot of trees, you know, and kind of a rusty swing set. So they're two very different versions of what a park is, and how to get people just as excited about Cathedral Pines as we would about, you know, Avalon or some of these other more accessible places.
More
and
Jerry
getting
Jams.
into-
Well,
Where?
Have more Jerry Jams.
Yeah.
Jerry Jam?
Oh, yeah, I was there for 3 days last week.
What is a Jerry Jam?
3-day festival with Grateful Dead music was there last week.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, what a great 3 days at Cathedral Points Park.
But every one of these parks has a local steward. That's the theory we're operating under.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who will go out of their way to tend to it. And so we look for people in each community who are doing that and try to support them.
Getting people there, I think, is the big part, and, you know, parks need to be marketed the way we market, you know, like Macy's and Primark, you know? I'm a psychologist, I know there are huge mental health benefits from being in parks and being in nature. And that should be a much bigger message than it is right now. So how do we make it so that it's immediately relevant to people? People are very poor with delaying gratification, by and large. And, you know, you watch a tree grow, that's a lot of weight. So places that have things to interact with, that have those, you know, here's somebody on the spot that can speak to you, I think it goes a long way.
We have to understand what the true worth of our nature is. That's why people come here as tourists. If you go to discover Long Island with all those companies, I bet you not one of them even gives a thought to improving the environment that they're making money off.
It's
so
like,
expose them, basically, yeah.
it's like organized feng shui or things like that, would bring people into the park. Is that a concept to work on?
There's 100 different ways to design experiences that bring people into the parks. We're gonna have one on Tuesday, mentioned the Frank Melville Park, I'm gonna lead a field walk there, you're all invited.
Saturday.
Saturday, did I, what day was I?
Saturday.
What day did I say?
Tuesday.
Oh, I'm still
I knew
thinking,
what you
I'm
were
still thinking
talking
about the damn blowout day. Yeah, no, it's just day after tomorrow, at 2 o'clock at the Frank Melville Park. But I would like to see something in the state curriculum,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
so that the kids get a chance to actually appreciate what's inside of some of our parks. I also am a basketball player, used to be, and so there are different kinds of parks, and I'm not talking about the handball court here, I'm talking about the parks that have significant historic and natural features that or should be the subject of curriculum within the schools, and the park systems should have you know, some personnel dedicated to bringing people to the park to learn about the park, as opposed to just to come to the park to grab them by the ankles and shake them upside down to get some coins and you know, have a hot dog perhaps. That too is a worthwhile thing to do. But I really think it's important to protect those parks for the next generation to know what they are and to begin to take it into their minds that they have a responsibility that is their heritage. The only way to do that is to expose them. So you're doing the right thing if you're thinking about it as a parent. Anything you can do to get the kids to experience the parks. You know, there's 100 different things. You can't do them all, but you can do some.
I really like the idea of guided tours, because even the town of Brookhaven at West Meadow Beach, there are events and they tend to do guided tours. Even at Cedar Beach, they really curate the natural parts of those two beaches. And, you know, Suffolk County really needs to have succession planning if this gentleman is actually retiring, and one person probably isn't enough for as large of a system as Suffolk County
Well, I
is.
sent a letter to the county executive 2 weeks ago asking if he would schedule civil service exams for filling the deputy position, which is vacant, to the director of historic resources. And I'm very pleased to report to you that I got a letter back from the county executive saying that that was going to happen. They're going to schedule the civil service exams. So it's important, you know, to try. It's still all about people, even though it's also all about nature and history. It's ultimately, you're thinking the right thing if you're asking the question of how can we do this, and how can we do it better, and you're working in the right direction. It's good stuff. Ellie.
I would like to thank you. This is a special thank you from the Pond Path Civic Association, which you helped us develop because of the Northville spill, you know, going up from Stony Brook all the way up north to Port Jefferson. And if it wasn't for Steve, we would have never been able to have the environment. It was awful. We had 200 families that were affected in 1985 from the spill.
The Northville spill.
The Northville spill. And then behind us, the Pine Barrens, I think it's still mostly barren because of your efforts.
That's a town park now.
The town park,
Yeah,
right?
much of it
And
is.
it's a Delta, Bell Road. Yeah,
Thank you for remembering.
But I thank
Yeah.
you for all your efforts, and that's why I'm here today, to give you a special thank you as a former chair of a civic association. That's the way to get things done. You really just have to do it, you know.
It's always about people. You keep coming back to that. People really matter. And if you give them a chance, you'll discover that they have enormous ability to make good things happen. And that most people like to see good things happen. And count me amongst them.
Question for you. What can we all in this room do to help get you reelected this campaign cycle?
Save the 24 hours in front of the election, and I'll work backwards from there. Let's start with the election. We need to get out the vote for a lot of reasons. I haven't talked very much about the stuff going on at the national level, but we can't have our base staying home discouraged by the latest insult that has come out of Washington. They need to know that there are alternatives, and that all politics is still local. So working backwards from there, we need people to carry message to the doors, work the telephones, stuff the envelopes, mail the mailers, and kind of get to know one another as well at the same time, because it should be a group effort. Yes, you want everybody on election day to vote for one person, or maybe a whole slate of people, but the process of getting there should be enjoyable, and a social warming should be a part of the political experience leading up to the election. Get to know one another. You're here tonight. Turn to the person next to you and say hello. Go ahead, do it. Thank you for the question. Other questions?
I just want to ask one more question.
Certainly.
Troublemaker? Oh, listen.
Good trouble.
Listen, the young people, okay. Has your campaign looked at the more dense area at this point? Meaning this, I come from the Gordon Heights, Middle Island Medford Forum. And I do know that based on whomever's running, whether it's assembly or council person, Gordon Heights is a key place to get the votes out. So if those young people are going to be available before November, I can still drive, by the way. I drive people around, so I'm thinking rather than wait till the last moment, we need to target, especially where we are, Robbie and I, and to start to talk to the people. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. Good suggestion. Thank you. Sir?
A little different. How do you feel about bringing up what's nationally happening with climate coming out of the national government, where they seem to be destroying climate rules and regulations for the future?
Thanks, Lou
Do you
Zeldin.
think that should be more of a local issue or left for the Congress people and stuff like that? I'm asking if you think you should bring up in a local election climate issues.
I think I should.
I think so.
And
I'll
I
second
think
that.
I'm the original sponsor of the Solar Choice Act at the state level. The Solar Net Metering Act, these are both Englebright bills, now law. I sponsored the law that create net metering for all customer classes, be they industrial or commercial or residential. I'm the prime sponsor of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. We passed it in the Assembly 4 times before the Senate finally acted. We put it on the governor's desk, and it was local voices that took a somewhat reluctant governor Andrew Cuomo at the time to decide, in fact, to invite Al Gore to the bill signing. And he took all the credit. Further to your question, and I said, thank you. Just do it. Let's get it done. And I could go on. I feel very, very strongly that this is an issue that we all should, understand that some of the weird things that are going on are climate related. I talked about the burst dams and the storm that killed 3 people in
Tennessee yesterday.
Tennessee. By the way, I'm a graduate at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I empathize with what's going on in West Tennessee.
How do you get people down there to acknowledge the fact that there is climate change? I mean, all they have to do is look out the window
well, Tennessee is complicated. You've got a lot of Tennessee is, if you get out of your car on it in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, you'll smell the moonshine. But they also have Oak Ridge National Laboratory and the University of Tennessee, which is a land grant college, 1793, I think. There are pockets of intelligentsia. Lincoln's vice president was Andrew Johnson. That's why we now have Johnson City on the Virginia border. East Tennessee was never a slave site because of the geology, by the way. The geology did not lend itself to plantations, it lent itself to small farms. And so my first day when I got off of the bus, I took a bus to University of Tennessee. I got off in the middle of campus and I looked up and there's an obelisk of granite and it's celebrating New York regiments. And I said, what the heck is that about? But it's because East Tennessee was defended by New York regiments. And it's because East Tennessee, where Johnson came from, was really Yankee. Complicated place, Tennessee. But whether these are hillbillies or whether they are sophisticated world-class scientists at national laboratories, the people in Tennessee matter also. They're all real people. Even the isolated communities in the mountains, some of which still speak with medieval dialect because they're so isolated. It's an incredibly beautiful place, but it's part of our America. And I think we should realize that when we have a burst dam in Smithtown or Stony Brook, and we turn to the Federal Emergency Management entity, FEMA, and ask for help, that's what the folks in North Carolina and Florida and Tennessee and the other red states, so-called, also will soon miss if these savage and mindless cuts. What in the hell is going on when you have the richest man in America taking a chainsaw and waving it in the air because he has fired people who have dedicated their lives to improving their communities? That's barbarian. That's absolutely barbarian. So we wait for our moment, and our moment
begins with you.
It didn't locally, it begins with local elections and believing it. Yeah, there it is. You gotta believe that you can make a difference. When I was at the University of Tennessee, I would not have imagined that I would ever be in office. I was in my cutoffs and flip-flops, and going to mineralogy
He missed
classes.
it.
How do we believe when the rule of law is being
Yes.
broken
That's
every minute in this country? How can we still believe when every minute I'm turning on the TV and I am seeing the rule of law being broken by our fearless orange leader?
The fearless orange leader is essentially a mobster.
Yeah.
Well, we all know what
And
he is, but
we're having mob rule at the moment, with a strong seasoning of totalitarianism. Keep the faith. You're not alone. You're here tonight amongst others who are asking themselves the same questions that you just asked. And you're right to ask those questions, but I hope you take some comfort from the fact that you look around the room, there are a lot of good people here, and this is a Thursday night, in the middle of the summer. So this is just a sampling. There are a lot of good people in our communities. The trick is you got to talk to them. You got to do your thing as an educator. Call it a campaign worker if you want, but it's really public education.
The pendulum will swing by.
unfortunately, MAGA is what MAGA does.
The answer is coming from yesterday. The only chance we have is our voice, the vote. That's the only choice we have at this time.
Yeah, but when the other side looking to gerrymander everything that goes on, what are we gonna have left? I mean, yeah, I know Hochul will fight, I know that Newsom's gonna fight, but what about all the other red states that are gonna do it all? It's just such our country has become such a mess. It's so horrible. Wake up and see what's become of us.
Well, it's not the first time. It's, we've come through,
We got rid of Nixon.
we've come through some pretty, Nixon comes to mind. I'm remembering when James Watt was the Secretary of Interior and proposed to sell national parks, which I was and still horrified about. We hadn't seen it again until this guy. But he's trying to sell national parks and forests. And I have to tell you, not all Republicans are bad. There was one called Teddy Roosevelt, who was a Long Islander. And he established the National Forest Service and National Park Service, and created a sense of hope in a time of excess, let's say, on the part of some of the very wealthy in America at that time. So our nation's resilience is being tested now, you're quite right. But you don't have to believe that only darkness lies ahead.
I hope I'm not gonna wake up next week and the National Guard is, walking up and down 347, stopping me because they saw my Facebook page and what I've posted, I mean, this is how I feel our country is coming to, becoming a police state.
Do you feel
They're
pretty
trying
confident?
to do that, they are, yeah.
Do you feel confident in vote security for, I think that's a big concern too for a lot of people, is making sure that people's votes really are being counted the way they are meant to. Are you pretty confident? in
My
vote
experience
security
is
for
mostly
Suffolk
in New
County?
York. I don't, I can't speak to other states. In New York, statewide, there is a preponderance of votes and voters that are educated enough to understand some of these very difficult realities that are being imposed upon us. And locally, our Board of Elections is operating under state law that requires a Democratic commissioner of Elections and a Republican Commissioner of Elections. And there's a balance there in this state. And if we can maintain our equilibrium, this is one of the mighty states. New York would be one of the largest countries in the world if it was its own country. So New York, which is where our nation began, by the way, the first capital in our nation was New York City.
That's right.
Still has an important role to play. Ma'am.
We came in late, so I don't know if we had talked about it, but is there anything that can be done at the county level to help protect our immigrant population from being harassed, kidnapped, whatever? Like, is there any, I don't know at what level things can be done?
The answer is obviously yes. Each of us, I think, can help, if given an opportunity and prepared for the moment. I received a whole series of little red cards today, one side in Spanish, one side in English, that detail the rights that immigrants have along with anybody else who's bipedal and warm-blooded in our United States of America. So again, education, I think, is an important part of it. At the county level, of course, if you follow the money, the largest part of the county budget is the police budget. It's only the 5 West End towns that are in the police district. It doesn't include the 5 East End towns. They have their own police departments. When we just recently confirmed the new police commissioner, and the Democrats, including myself, asked questions sharply of the commissioner in terms of the ways in which ICE would be relating to the police in the county, and he answered quite convincingly that there would be cooperation if there was some kind of a meaningful threat, as all uniformed service people will come to the aid of others, be they volunteer firemen and women, or be they people who are driving your ambulance, or if there's a real shooting emergency or something like that. But in terms of trying to help ICE fill its quota, no. That's not part of the mission of the department. The new commissioner made that very clear. Wearing masks, snatching people off the streets, not part of the mission of the Suffolk County Police. He made it very clear that his view as the leader of the Suffolk Police Department was that the public perception of county police officers should continue to be that they are welcome in our communities because they are our protectors. And wearing masks and masking their names and obscuring their identities, you don't know who the hell you're dealing with in such a circumstance. The Suffolk Police have I believe, a pretty clear understanding of what their mission is. And while they will support fellow uniformed officers if there's a shootout or something, that makes sense. But are they going to absorb the mission, the perverse mission? No. And so I sit on the Public Safety Committee, and I'm going to stay on that committee if reelected.
I'd like to follow up on that, because really, these are abductions, plain and simple. Unmarked cars, unmarked people. You don't know whether you're being taken away by a hoodlum or law enforcement.
And where you go.
And, you know, one could call the police and say, I just watched an abduction, or my friend was just abducted. And I think the police have a role to play in trying to stop this. And maybe not the Suffolk County Police Force, I don't know whether they have the guts to actually take on something like that, but that to me is a question of this new commissioner. You know, what can you do to stop this? You're law enforcement, people are being abducted.
Well, he did get some questions in that direction. He answered them thoughtfully. I think that the circumstances of which you speak are abhorrent. They are totalitarian. They are a preview of perhaps even more authoritarian directions. Scott, you were correct to raise the question as well. And I think everybody in this room is concerned about it. Are we seeing in Los Angeles with the National Guard deployment there, and now in the nation's capital, the nation is
And the U.S. Marines in Los Angeles as well.
So, the antidote is about 6 more Democrats in Congress.
Yes.
A trip to The Hague.
So, again, you know, we speak through our vote.
I believe we're getting new voting machines in November, is that right?
They already were utilized.
For the part,
For the special election out east.
Okay,
Yeah.
but not in our area.
Not in our area yet, but they will be for this November.
Right, so expect new voting machines, and it's electronic.
Paper copies, I wonder, do we know?
I know that internally there will be a paper copy because it's required for their audit to happen, but I don't
Right.
know. I don't think you get.
The voter doesn't
the voter
get
doesn't
anything.
No,
but
so
it is
just so
printed.
the vote doesn't disappear, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
they
security
count-
is kind of my concern,
Yes,
because
yes.
it's so easy for them to go, okay, but it was a leap year and your license plates ended with a W, so your vote doesn't count. And that's the fear I have, you know, I'm being clearly facetious, but coming out of Washington, there are so many boxes you have to check to have a vote. And I think that's some of my concern, is making sure that as many votes are secure as possible, to be able to do it. So if the new voting machines have that paper copy, again, if there's a
There's a
representative
paper
from
roll
each side.
in the machine.
Mhm.
You're not gonna get a receipt.
You know.
Tabulator of some
Never
kind.
did.
Yeah,
There's a
but there's-
tabulator.
in case of you know,
And-
somebody contesting.
And again,
if
under
there's
the
ballots.
state law, you know, a Democrat and a Republican are supposed to be with each voting site, so.
Each voting site, each machine, each ballot bag.
And actually, the Democratic Party often sends people to problematic voting places or to check and see how things are going. And we have a hotline that if there is an issue, call me. Yes.
Yeah, there's been so much messaging, obviously, in
Yeah, I
popular
mean-
media about it, and I'm not concerned, but I think, you know, my voice speaks on behalf of, I'm always speaking on behalf of here's the moms group and here's the buzz. Because I think
Absolutely.
those are important voices that they may not show up here, but these are all voting voices, and when they're concerned about, okay, is my vote secure or not, then that's the difference between them deciding to find a sitter for the kids they can vote or not. And that's why the more
Big
secure it is,
difference.
the
Yeah.
more likely they are showing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm very practical. Over myself.
It's safer in New York than maybe other places, though, is your point.
I think we're safe in New York. I can't speak to other
Yeah.
places. Other questions, though?
Steve, we actually had a question over on this side, and then I just wanted to say, in the interest of time, after this question, if anybody else has any remaining questions, anybody on Zoom, I think we'll take 1 to 2 more and then try and wrap things up, or else we'll be here all night. Steve could go on and on, so we could do it again as well if
And there's
people
an
are into
event
that.
too on Saturday, as we established. So if you have more questions.
That's the time to do it.
Yeah.
So the question actually was right over here.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came here. It's such a honor to be with you all. And Steve, I just want to say thank you too for all that you do, and the fact that you care so much about the environment, so care much about everyone in this county. It just means a lot to me, and I'm honored to be your campaign intern. And so I just want to get to my question. I know that a lot of people are scared, a lot of people are upset about what's going on in the country and going around the world, and what he was saying before about how the country is going so divided and going crazy, it makes me say that I don't give up, and we are the future of this country, and I think that we are fighters, and fighters win. And I know that some say that being positive in a negative situation is naive. I want to tell you that it's not. It's called being a leader, and you represent that tremendously. So literally my question is, what can you say to someone who's scared and someone who says, I don't know what's going on, we need positive leadership? What can you say to them who are just scared right now about the state of this country?
Get involved. Don't just watch. Do something. Don't try to do it by yourself. That is an exercise in frustration. But if you work through the Democratic Party, you will find that there are people there when you're having one of your days of doubt. There will be some people there that say, I got your back. And develop a sense of group. And it is, as Margaret Mead said, it is small groups that can make the biggest changes.
So everyone, at your seat, you have a sheet that says 4 ways to get involved. If you specifically wanted to know how to get involved, so please note that.
We like to leave people with action items.
Yeah.
That way it's not just an echo chamber. We want to get people involved and give you guys the tools to be able to do that. So not only do we want you to take that home and share it with your family, but everybody has friends, neighbors. The next time we hold an event like this, the goal is to double the amount of people that are here.
And we can do it.
We can definitely hold
100%.
another event very similar to this one, and hopefully we can get some new faces, new people. People, like Steve said, people are angry right now, and we really need to build on the momentum as the Democratic Party, and that starts here locally. And getting people involved is going to lead to, this is a very off-year election, but it's going to help with all of the other elections to come. And if we just sit and do nothing and sit in the despair, it's going to continue down that dark path, and we cannot let that happen. So thank you again, everybody, for coming. We did want to just take a second as well to shout out some of the people. Thank you to Councilmember Kornreich for taking the time to be here. Who is representing Rebecca Cassay as well. Thank you. And we also have a very special guest in the back. Shalara, please let me know if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, who is running over in Smithtown, who can definitely use So thank you for being here. Does anybody else have any last minute questions before we wrap up?
Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.